President, Mrs. Reagan, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm touched by your cordial welcome and the warm words with which you and Mrs. Reagan have received us here in Washington. We're equally honored by the generous remarks you, Mr. President, have just made about my country and people. Seen from Washington, Nepal is almost on the other side of the globe, and yet, as this friendly gathering here tonight shows, distance notwithstanding, friendship and cordiality based on shared ideals can exist between countries that are geographically far apart. In 1947, as soon as Nepal broke her age-old isolation by seeking friendship beyond her borders, it was with the United States of America that Nepal sought to establish her diplomatic relations. Since 1951, the year when my grandfather, late King Thiruvan, led the Nepalese people to democracy, we have looked to the United States as a land of freedom and fulfillment. The enduring ideals of the founding fathers of America, who spoke to men of liberty and independence, have inspired men throughout the world, including those of us living in the mountain fastness of Nepal. In our part of the world, if America is looked upon as a land of gold, grain, and computers, a country of skyscrapers and space shuttle, she is also regarded as a nation committed to respect man and his dignity. A land of discovery, America has distinguished herself in being inventive, in breaking new grounds, and opening newer horizons of knowledge for the betterment of man. With a country such as the United States, one wonders if Nepal has anything in common. On the surface, there may seem very little. Yet, as men living in the same planet, we have common stakes in the global peace, prosperity, and indeed the survival of man in dignity and freedom. We are happy to see, Mr. President, your efforts to maintain peace and stability around the world. The Nepalese people join me in appreciating the understanding with which, on behalf of the people and the government of the United States, you have extended support to the concept of Nepal as a zone of peace. This recognition, I assure you, will go down not only as an important landmark in the history of our relations, but also as a testimony of your personal commitment to the cause of peace, stability, and freedom. Nepal rejoices in the achievements of the American people in different fields of human endeavors. The initiative and enterprise of your people are exemplary. Yet what happens in this part of the world sends its ripples even to the roadless villages of Nepal. We receive their fallout. When America suffers a temporary drought, millions around the world get affected. Indeed, if I may seek your indulgence, I would like to mention something that on the surface may sound trivial, but sometimes it is the small thing that can bring about profound changes. The corn, maize, in Nepal was introduced from this part of America, as were the potatoes from the Andes nearly 300 years ago. These new crops not only altered our hill economy, but even the mode of life by making settlements possible in the mountain terraces of Nepal. Evidently, we do not live in islands, but in a world bound in a nexus of interdependence. What happens in America ceases, therefore, to be a local event. The United States, as such, has shown a consistent understanding towards this and has assisted Nepal in stretching her hand of friendship and cooperation in many fields, including the building of infrastructures. May I take this opportunity, therefore, to thank you, and through you to the people and government of the United States, for the support we have received in meeting the challenges of development in Nepal. Mr. President, in recent years, America has brought glory to humanity by landing man on the moon. It is indeed thrilling to reflect that one can soar into space to explore the unknown and scan the stars. Yet these adventures into outer space would carry still deeper meaning if the part of humanity living in Nepal could also rid themselves of their continuing poverty. Herself a least developed, landlocked country, Nepal has always sought understanding and cooperation from our friends and neighbors. In fact, since the time I assumed responsibilities, I have sought that the minimum of basic needs must not be denied to people anywhere in the world. In this regard, I take comfort in the reassurance that the United States will continue to extend cooperation on a long-term basis into the future. Modern technology, Mr. President, has reduced distance and joined us all into a family of nations. This situation demands that we create an enduring relationship based on a sense of purpose and meaning. Were Nepal and countries in her region willing to join hands with the United States and other international agencies in a creative effort for prosperity by putting into use a fragment of their human and capital resources to harness the water potentials of Nepal, it would not only enable them to walk over a long road to progress for our region as a whole, but would also continue to build bridges of understanding between a most advanced and a least developed nation of the world. It would also mean eliminating the perils of hunger on the one hand and the danger of instability and extremism on the other. I have no doubt that Nepal and the United States can cooperate in many fields of creative endeavors. As countries that have shown respect to the uniqueness of the individual, we believe in the conservation of the natural as well as the spiritual heritage of man. But most important of all, we both honor the freedom of man and the independence of nations. In this regard, we appreciate the support the United States has shown consistently to our identity as a nation. Mr. President, I cherish the fruitful exchange of views we have had recently with each other. You have been very reassuring, and I wish to thank you and Mrs. Reagan for the warmth of hospitality shown to me, my wife, and members of my entourage. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I now request you to join me in proposing a toast to the health and happiness of President Ronald Reagan of the United States of America and the First Lady, Mrs. Nancy Reagan, to the peace and prosperity of the American people, and to the further development of friendship between Nepal and the United States.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me congratulate you, Mr. President, on your election to this important position. Let me also appreciate the Director General for this comprehensive report on the Women at Work initiative, with not only sums of the structural and other constraints, but also provides pragmatic suggestions for the attainment of the gender equality and justice in the world of work. Let me share to this august gathering that historic achievements have been made in Nepal over the last 1 year in the socio-economic and political spheres. The labor sector has also made a remarkable progress. We have successfully completed the election to the three tiers of government, federal, provincial, and local, under the new constitution. It has kindled hope among people for stability and development. It is also important to mention that the local election came up with 41% women elected in representatives. On the labor front, after the constructive engagement of all stakeholders, we enact a new Labor Act 2017 in line with the ILO fundamental principles and right at work. The regulations required for effective enforcement of the Act has also been adopted. The most important aspect of new Act is that all workers are covered within jurisdiction. Enactment of a contribution-based social security law is another important milestone in this direction. Within a couple of years, this system would be implemented in a full-fledged manner by engaging the informal sector also. In addition to this, we have prepared a master plan to eliminate all form of child labor by 2025. We are also in the process of finalizing a national policy on occupational health and safety. Mr. President, with these labor laws, policies, and initiatives at hand, we are committed to expanding decent and gainful employment opportunities and fair labor practices, enforcing labor audit in line with the spirit of new laws, eliminating child labor, strongly dealing with workplace violence and sexual harassment, and lastly, establishing and operationalizing the quasi-judicial mechanism to deal with labor disputes. Mr. President, Nepal preferred to make foreign employment not an option rather than compulsion. For this purpose, the flagship Prime Minister Employment Program seeks to create massive decent work opportunities for the youth through skill enhancement and entrepreneurship development. It also ensures a minimum employment guarantee to the people, deprived areas and marginalized communities. Nepal looks forward to finalize and subsequent adoption of the goal compact of safe, orderly, and regular migration. We have commenced decisive action to ensure fair recruitment and control fraudulent activities. As the current chair of Colombo process, Nepal is effortful in making labor migration safe, predictable, and well managed for the benefit of all. Nepal respects and implements the principle of social dialogue and tripartism. The Central Labor Advisory Council is now in operation in a national forum for consultation and dialogue on labor issues. Mr. President, before I close, let me take this opportunity to extend our thanks to the ILO and other development partners for their continued cooperation and support in promoting decent work, social dialogue, tripartism, and right at work. As ILO approaches the centenary celebration, there is an imperative to promote and consolidate decent work opportunity for every individual worker in the world. Nepal would be happy to join this noble initiative. Thank you.